Don't tell our viewers, Emily. I'm sure plenty of TV watchers are happy Dish gives them the ability to watch primetime shows with commercials automatically stripped out, but the networks aren't happy. That's why they sued. Gary Shapiro runs the Consumer Electronics Association. He supports what Dish is doing, and he joins us now from Detroit via Skype. So, Gary, you were a supporter of what Dish is doing, but we know what the content companies are saying. They're saying, hold on a second, we've got this ad model that all of a sudden is killed by this move. What's your response to that?
I say it's triple deja vu. I started my career working in the Sony Betamax litigation that the Supreme Court heard twice and decided in 1985. And it's by one vote, 5-4. They said a VCR is a legal product. It can be sold, and you can record broadcast for later viewing. And then, of course, the DVRs themselves were introduced. There was lawsuits over them. One of the companies was sued out of existence, but there was no question that the digital video recorder is a product, or as the chairman of the FCC said at the time, it's God's invention. It's a great product. You have to rip that out of my dead hands. And I think that's how consumers feel.
But let me go back to the point that the broadcasters are making about their advertising revenue. Les Moonves, who runs CBS, recently said the following. Here's the quote. How does Charlie Ergen is the guy who runs Dish, expect me to produce CSI without commercials? Does he not have a point there?
Well, you could have said the same thing again about the digital video recorder itself. Look, Comcast, which owns NBC, as part of their offering for cable subscribers, gives you the ability to zap through 30 seconds worth of commercials. This is no different. The fact that new technology affects an old business model is the way of Silicon Valley and of innovation since the invention of the car to the horse and buggy. This is just new innovation. In fact, actually, I think Dish was much more gracious than they had to be. This doesn't work for 24 hours. You have to wait a day to skip the commercials. But I think it's
interesting. It's interesting you describe Dish as being gracious. I think there are some that would argue that their approach versus some of the other players out there, let's say Cablevision, that they're being a lot more aggressive with the technology.
I think that Joe Clayton, who heads that company, with Charlie Ergen, are both very bright people who want to give consumers something that they want. This isn't like photographing the president's children, where there's this big ethical issue of kids we're protecting here. This is protecting a business model. Look, the way that advertisers responded to the DVRs, they had much more engaging commercials that you didn't want to skip past. Many people do want to watch the commercials even when they record. So will this be the end of commercial advertising? Absolutely not. Will it have some impact? Maybe. That's yet to be seen. But one thing is pretty clear. I can't imagine the networks winning the lawsuit on this one. This is a Supreme Court decision they have to distinguish themselves from, and they have no ability to do it.
So you think the networks won't win, but obviously they're well willing to fight. How long do you think this could play out?
It'll play out for a while. It may go all the way to the Court of Appeals, potentially the Supreme Court. But the Sony Betamax decision is so important. We call it the Magna Carta for the innovation industry because it allowed all sorts of new products, the iPod, the internet itself, because it basically said you can produce products if they have significant non-infringing uses. And one of the non-infringing uses was over-the-air broadcast recording, and that's what the Supreme Court said so clearly. And it's rare that you have a case that's so right on point. So I read the networks and what they're claiming. They've tried to be creative. They've tried to say that skipping advertisements is an infringement. It's just not.
All right, Gary, thanks for sharing your view. Gary Shapiro, CEO of the Consumer Electronics Association, joining us via Skype from Detroit.